Leaders in tech are burning out at an absurd rate. Ctrl+Alt+Delete with Lisa Duerre is a no BS conversation with one of the top female executives who spent over 25 years in Silicon Valley. If you're suffering from the always-on, never good enough, will replace you today machine called the tech space, this show's for you. Here's Lisa.
Have you ever been told to put your oxygen mask on first? And you want to say, I'm not on an airplane, shut up, it's not the deal. It really is something that people say all the time. And our guest today, Dr. Dan Diamond's already giggling with my intro.
Yeah, because I'm the only guy that I know that has one of these. I mean, right? I don't carry it with me everywhere I go, but it's a good reminder.
It's a good reminder. Welcome to Ctrl+Alt+Delete, everybody. Lisa Duerre here with Dr. Dan Diamond. And I have to tell you, as we were prepping for today, I was watching Dan's TED Talk. I was reviewing some other things that he has to share. And honestly, we could have 4 days of podcasting just to talk to this brilliant man. So we spent a little time narrowing down our focus today to be of highest and best service to you. And this oxygen mask really stands out today. We are in the midst of so much rapid change. People are getting vaccinated. Life is starting to open up a bit. Leaders and policymakers are trying to figure out how do we make it okay for people to get back to work, and in what ways? Employees are thinking, I don't want to go back to the way it was. What do I do differently? Parents are rejoicing, hoping to get kids back to school and probably not even planning a day off because there's so much work to be done, right? There's this perfect storm. And so I'm just very excited today to have Dr. Dan Diamond here, because I've been watching his work in a group that we're in together, and I've been following him, and he is just so the right person to have this conversation. So Dan, thank you for making the time today. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm excited to hang out with you. You know, we are connected at the heart, and also at that deep part that's inside most of us anyway, that's the deep inner nerd.
Oh, the inner nerd. Yes. So for those of you listening, buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to talk nerds. We're going to talk oxygen mask, perhaps chickens. Like, you don't even know what we're going to bring to you today. But here's what I want you to know and why it's so important. We're going to have fun, right? And we also are going to talk about love. And we're going to talk about love in the workplace, self-love, love for humanity. So I don't care whether you are the board member, the intern, or anybody in between. Like, this episode's for you. And we're bringing it here because we know how important it is right now. So let me do the official intro for our friend, Dr. Dan Diamond. Dr. Dan Diamond is passionate about equipping people to make a difference, especially when resources are scarce and times are tough. Like today, right? He was the director of the Medical Triage Unit at the New Orleans Convention Center following Hurricane Katrina. He's led one of the first medical teams into Haiti following their devastating earthquake, and deployed to the Philippines following Typhoon Yolanda. So I just want to say, there's more to this intro, but I want to just pause and say, I just want to give mad, profound respect to you, Dr. Dan, for what you do for everybody in these situations and the stories you're going to share with us today. Because I haven't been in that. I've been through the .com bust, and boom, I'm working through COVID, right? I've seen the financial crisis. So I've seen it through a different lens. I'm just excited to take what you've seen and heard and bring it forward to be of service to others, so that not one moment is wasted there. And everyone listening, I want you to know Dr. Diamond's the author of Beyond Resilience, Trench-Tested Tools to Thrive Under Pressure. And how appropriate is that? And I want to let you know, I'm very excited because he's been seen on CNN, Anderson Cooper, Larry King Live, and now Ctrl+Alt+Delete with Lisa Duerre.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at
Boom,
that.
just like that.
Boom. Look, I'm bringing the hedgehog out.
Just like that. Yeah.
When's the last time you were on screen with a hedgehog? Okay.
You got to bring the hedgehog.
Right. Yeah. So I said a lot, and I know there's a lot to unpack there. What I'd really love to know first off is, with everything I've just described, what's going on for people, are you seeing that too? And what's your lens right now as you're seeing the world change yet again at such a rapid pace? What are your observations?
Yeah. It's interesting when you look at responding to a big international disaster. There's the first in teams, that first response piece. That's my sweet spot. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people that come back in to do the mitigation and to rebuild, and they play a longer game. And with COVID-19, everybody started out saying, we can do this. We're going to rally together. Our team's going to be better together when we're apart. It's, all this, it was great. It was awesome. And then it became a marathon, and then it became a super marathon. And then it became like the Big Muddy. Do you have Big Muddy where you are? These people that race through the mud and everything?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Haven't done it, but I do know it. Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I did the medical coverage at that, and we sent out like 4 people with broken ankles. I'm not doing that.
Man.
No, it's not good. But we're in a long haul now. So now we're getting to, you depleted your adrenaline, rah, and now it's like, like I wish that I could see everybody that's listening to this right now. So if you just say, hey, how many of you are feeling tired and disconnected right now, and just like, just go back to normal. I was like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. And so for me, the interesting work for me is happening here and here.
Head and heart.
Personally, personally, and the conversations that go on back and forth between here and here. Because the days that, and this seems so simple, and I'm not going to get all woo-woo on you. I'm a disaster guy. We don't do that. Okay, we do, but only because we know it works. But the internal conversation that I'm having, if I wake up in the morning and I'm saying, man, this sucks. I am so tired of this. I just want to get on an airplane, go fly some place, do a keynote presentation, meet some new friends, chill, have a great time, come back home and just relax, I'm just like, this sucks. And if I'm looking at the world through that this sucks lens, my options become quite limited. And have you ever had an experience where you experienced tunnel vision?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And it was the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. Are
you kidding me? The tunnel vision?
No, I'm not kidding you. The question is, do I want to tell you the story?
I'm leaning in. For those of you looking, I'm like,
do I dare share this with your audience?
I don't know.
Man. Because if I see any of you and then you say, oh yeah, Diamond, I remember that. I remember that story. Well,
yeah.
So we were in Haiti, and we got there. It took us about 5 days to get to the hospital we were assigned to resuscitate and get back online. Because, well-meaning people, and we could have a whole conversation about what happens when well-meaning people think that they know what's best for people that are suffering.
Yeah.
But they haven't taken the time to come alongside them to say, hey, what do you need? When people send in blankets to a tropical zone in airplanes, and the airplanes didn't think about the fact that there isn't any way for them to refuel, then it just fills up the airport and we can't get the supplies in that we need, and we can't get in. So we have to fly into the opposite side of the island and then drive down. So it took us 5 days to get to the hospital we were supposed to resuscitate in. It just looked like the whole world had been taken up, shaken and slammed back down on its foundations. And there were so many buildings that I saw that were collapsed. And part of my job as the incident commander, we use the same strategy as the fire department does with the incident command structure. And part of the job with the incident commander is I got to look around and make sure that I'm interfacing with all the other teams. So I'm reaching out to I go to the United Nations meetings at the disasters. I'm reaching out to the Japanese, to the Israelis. The Israelis, by the way, were the best. They are so good at international disaster stuff. Anyway, I'd seen all of these buildings that had collapsed, and we are assigned to stay in a second-story concrete building.
Okay.
I'm like, can I have a tent? Would it be okay if I just pitched my tent? I have one. Can I just pinch it? No, you have to stay in the building because it's not safe because there's bad guys out there. So we're going to put you in the second story and we're going to protect you and it's going to be good. I said, yeah. So I go to bed and I'm thinking, all right, I've seen how these firefighter dudes do this in the movies, right? You take your pants off and your boots off and you stack them right next to your bed. So if you have a fire or something, or an earthquake, you can jump out and land in your boots and just pull your pants up and run. I got it all planned out because I'm a disaster guy. That's what we're supposed to do, And I get in the bed and I tuck my mosquito netting in all around me and I go to sleep. And it's about 6:30 in the morning. And I'm dreaming that my mom is shaking my bed. And then I woke up and realized that it was an earthquake. And it was a 6.2 aftershock. Jay Leno said it well. Leno says, calling that an aftershock is like telling a woman with twins that the second one's just the afterbirth. I had never in my entire life been so terrified. So I jumped out of bed. My buddy in the other bunk yells, earthquake! Yeah, duh. We're being tossed all around. I jump out of the bed and somebody took my pants and my boots. They were gone. So I'm standing there in my tidy whities. Now don't picture that because I don't wear tidy whities anymore ever since I switched to black boxer briefs. Because I learned this the hard way.
Fun fact.
The hard way. So I had this big conversation with myself. Would you rather spend a little extra time looking for your pants or would you rather be embarrassed? Embarrassed right now. Boom. So I ran downstairs out into the courtyard with my whole team and all the people from the community. And they start looking around and people start chuckling because I'm the only dude standing there in their tidy whities. Everybody's got clothes on except for me.
Wow.
And then a 10-year-old girl passes out right in front of me. And my team's brutal. You know, we got disaster humor. We're weird. They go, Diamond, she passed out because she saw you in your tidy whities. But I got to go out in front of everybody and take care of her in my tidy whities.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back in after it was all over and we were sure the building was cool and nothing was going to fall apart. I went back in and my pants and my boots were right where I put them. Nobody took my boots. Nobody took my pants. I just couldn't see them because I was so scared, so afraid. So it was the worst case of tunnel vision I've ever experienced. It was like looking through a little tiny pinhole and I'm looking around going, where's my clothes? I can't find my clothes. So that's not the only time I've experienced tunnel vision, but you get tunnel vision, tunnel hearing, and tunnel thinking. So when we start focusing on everything that's wrong, we get either anger, frustration, fear, all those emotions lead to tunnel vision, tunnel hearing, and tunnel thinking. It's not helpful. So how do you play a lighter game so you can keep your head in the game and start seeing solutions that are out there?
Yeah.
That to me, when I'm leading my teams into these disasters, a couple things happen at the airport. We always meet at the airport. There's a whole big roster of us. And so I never know who I'm going to deploy with, but most of the time I don't know them. We've all been through similar training, but we come from all over the place, meet at the airport and then go do our thing. And I always say, hey, I'm going to make mistakes. And I enthusiastically welcome your feedback because I know that two of us together are way better than one. And I've learned the value of being proximate with people that are different than me. So I'm like showing up, hoping that there's people that are radically different than I am on my team. The last thing I want is a bunch of old white guys going into a disaster. No, give me a diverse team because then we get some real insights into what's going on. And then just to say, I welcome your feedback. What's it look like from your perspective? Because my perspective is I only have old white guy eyes. And I know that I'm missing stuff. The problem is I don't know what I don't know. And I need you to help me understand that.
Yeah. I really appreciate the second part of I enthusiastically welcome your feedback. What's it look like through your view or your lens? Something around that line. So many times leaders say, I have an open door policy, which really means don't bug me, right? But on paper, I have an open door policy. And what I heard you say, and I really want to highlight for our listeners, is that second follow on, which you are actually enlisting, inviting information right then at that moment. I think that is a game changer. That's a writer downer because it's one thing to say it, but you just actually modeled it, practiced it, and actually, held it out and said, bring it to me. Let me know. And oh, by the way, I know I don't know everything. Yeah. And there's so much to unpack in what you just said. First of all, you had me at, tunnel vision, then we're in tidy whities, and then we're in, going back. But I want to go all the way back for a second to the blankets. How many times are you giving people blankets when they don't need them, right? You were talking about you had to fly to another airport because well-intended people were sending blankets to a tropical zone. I see this a lot right now with leaders in this situation. Here's the EAP line. Go call your HR person when you need something. No, we got to keep working this hard. Nothing can change. I mean, I'm just going to call them all blankets. They're well-intended, right? I think I'll just keep you focused. And you're home anyway, so why not work more? Right. And your kids they figured out the computer now. You couldn't possibly need 10 minutes of sunshine, right? Like just keep going and act like it's not there. Like put the blinders on. So I just feel compelled to say many times I think we're all in tunnel vision right now. And
well, there's a weird piece of it that I don't like.
Yeah.
That I just became aware of recently. So I watched Brian Stevenson's talk. He'd be a great guy for you to interview sometime. He started the Equal Justice Initiative. He wrote a book called Just Mercy. It was made into a movie recently. I read his book. I read Anthony Ray Hinton's book, The Sun Does Shine. And both of those books just knocked me out of my chair. I was weeping reading Anthony Ray Hinton's book about how he was wrongfully convicted, spent 30 years on death row before they got him off. But what I learned from Brian Stevenson is this value of proximity and coming alongside people that are different and actually seeking out those conversations. Mm-hmm. There's the stuff that I'm going to share with you. I'm feeling like, okay, I want to get vulnerable because it will serve you for you to see what I had to discover because I had to do some work to get to it. And if I could just share it with you, then I think it might be easier. So you don't have to do the same work I've been doing to try to figure this out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I go there too. Yep.
So I've been thinking about the woman that holds up her cardboard sign at the grocery store and thinking, I'm going to stop and talk to her. So I went to the grocery store, got my groceries, put them in the truck, went over and I said, hey, my name's Dan. And she said, hi, my name's Jessica. Nice to meet you. And I said, wow, it's kind of cold out here. And she said, oh yeah, it's cold out here. Yeah. I said, oh, do you have a place to stay? She goes, oh yeah, I do. I have a camper. I said, oh, that's awesome. Do you have electricity though? She goes, yeah. Oh, my brother lets me plug in at his house. It's really cool. It's awesome. I have a nice warm place. Thank you for asking. Said, oh yeah, do you have, what's your favorite animal? And she pulls out a picture. Do you remember what those are?
I know, right?
Not like she didn't pull out a phone. She pulled out a piece of paper and it had an image on it. It was really weird. Somewhere in my mind, I think, oh yeah, I remember those. Mm-hmm. It was a picture of her dog and she started telling me all about her dog and how cool it was. And I said, yeah, my favorite animal is the tardigrade. And I pulled out my phone and showed a picture of a tardigrade. And I said, my second favorite animal is a wombat because they have square poop. They do, right? And they mark their territory by stacking their poop. And I said, yeah, I know people like that for sure, for realsies. And then I said, they should put a bench out here for you. And she said, oh no, I would never use it. I said, really? Wouldn't you be more comfortable on a bench? She said, no, I'd be too cold. I got to keep moving. There's no way I would use a bench. And I went away from that conversation thinking, okay, number one, I'm a doctor and I'm a problem solver, and that's what I do. Number two, and this is the part that's not so good, sometimes I solve people's problems before I understand what their problems are. Sometimes I solve people's problems and they don't want their problem solved. And there's an arrogance for me to show up and say, oh, hi, my name's Dan. I know what you need. You need a bench. I know what you need because I'm so smart. Like, really? Really?
Yeah.
And so as I drove home thinking, I just got schooled by Jessica that I don't know what's best. I just need to come alongside people and show up with love and say, hey, how are you? What can I do? How can I best support you? Is there something? Mm-hmm. And then about 2 weeks later, I had a second epiphany on that same conversation. And this one's even more profound. I show up thinking that I have the answers And maybe if I'm really got my act together, I'll listen to find out how I can help. But do I value her enough to give her a voice in the community on how we can step our game up as a community? Do I look at her as Jessica has something to contribute? And I went, oh, that's a game-changing thing. Mm-hmm. And I suspect if we went to Jessica and said, hey, we're going to get some people in our community together, and we want to talk about how to make this a better place for everybody to live. Would you come? I think she would probably say, why would you want me to come? Because she has received the message over and over again from our society. You don't have anything to offer. You live in a camper in your brother's house and plug into his electricity. So I wonder, when you look at it in an organizational hierarchy, which I think the organizations don't work that way anyway, they work more like a neural network, and we could have a great conversation about neuroplasticity in the brain and how the brain works. But I'm more and more excited about saying, how do we give everybody a voice? And how do we listen carefully to what everybody has to say? Because together, when we come together, we're really smarter.
Yeah. I'm almost having an out-of-body experience right now listening to this, because there's so much downloading for me. And I'm sure you have this moment too, where you're open to receive, right? I'm showing up with an open heart, open head. I'm here to create a platform for these types of conversations, and so much is downloading. I just want to acknowledge that part, because I think as society, we're just framed to as the podcast host, I should just come right back at you with the next question, keep moving. And I kind of want to sit in this for a second and just unpack it a bit, because there's just so much to what you're saying. And when I think about our listeners who are navigating all of this, who are your Jessicas?
Yeah.
Who are your Jessicas, and what are they? You know how much people know that they're not even offering up or sharing because they don't feel like it matters, or that it's not valued. I think about all the women leaving the workforce right now. And I think about my own mindset around this. As a white woman, I've always been like, yay, women, right? And then I start talking to my recently created friendships with women of color, and realizing I had no clue what it was like to be a woman of color in tech. I knew what it was like to be a white woman in tech. Let me tell you, that's a whole different ballgame. And so, my Jessicas too, who are my Jessicas, and where can I go with that? And so, I'm not really sure what my next question is, except I want to just state out loud, I appreciate the story, the message underneath it, and the vulnerability you shared in that, so that we can all embrace our own humanity and our own lenses, our own shared experience. And yet the difference in that too, because the collective is always stronger when there's safety and inquiry, right? I love the question, how might we get everybody's voice at this, on this topic? How might we make sure people are getting what they need? And then for a leader, honestly, Dan, when I think about leaders, I feel for them in empathetic ways so much, because they're so afraid of asking that question because they might not be able to solve it. And society says, well, you better have an answer. You better figure it out. You have that title, the hierarchy thing we were talking about. And right.
Yeah, that just makes me laugh.
I know.
And that makes me laugh, because I look at that and go, yeah, okay. So
yeah,
if the world is dependent upon me for the answers, we are in trouble.
Yeah.
When we go into a disaster, it's ugly.
Yeah.
For me to come in and say, dun, 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 hold on. I think I even have it would sound like this.
Right.
All right. The white Americans are here. We know what's best for you. We're going to, come on. Yeah. How gross is that?
It's so gross.
But it makes more sense to say, wow, you're doing some really great stuff here. We can learn a lot from you, because when my power goes down and my internet goes down, I think I'm having the worst day on the planet. Mm-hmm. And you don't even have power and internet ever, and you're thriving. So how do you rally your neighbors?
Yeah.
There was a fascinating thing that happened that was things that make you go, huh?
I love that song. Mm-hmm.
Oh. So when I responded to the Philippines for Typhoon Yolanda, this was a super typhoon. And it's easy to say super typhoon, and everybody goes, yeah, I know what that means. Yeah, you probably don't know what that means.
I probably have no clue. It just sounds really big.
We're talking like 195 mile an hour winds that will take the roof off your house in under 10 seconds and pick up your car and toss it in your neighbor's yard. That kind of wind. This is like, oh. So the amount of devastation that happened in the Philippines was mind-blowing because, it just destroys these barangay, the little villages. And if you look at Tacloban, and I've got some video on my website, or I can send you some links to this stuff. Yeah. I shot video. We did heli clinics, which is really a cool word for we got to ride in helicopters. No, I'm not supposed to be excited about that, but it is really cool to ride in helicopters.
So you get to ride in a helicopter, right?
So we get to fly over and see all this devastation, and we're flying, looking straight down, going, "Oh my gosh!" We've been working in clinics for 2 or 3 days before we got to go do this heli clinic thing at the northern part of the island, and you realize this is an even bigger disaster than what I thought it was. This is like completely devastated, and there were these cargo ships that just got tossed up onto the shore, and it squeegeed all the homes right off their foundations. And they're a half mile in. Like a whole ship a half mile in. Well, the mind-blowing thing for me is to go back and look at the videos now. So 6 years after the typhoon, Christine Romuald is the mayor. One of my huge heroes, by the way, released a video called Tacloban. That's the name of their city. Tacloban, the happiest people in the world. Oh, well, that's kind of different. And when you look at the video that I shot versus the video that they have now, they have completely rebuilt the place. It's way, way, way better than it ever was before. It's magnificent. So, that begs the question, how the heck did you do that? Mm-hmm. Really, how did you do that? Because, I don't know, you go back to Haiti and look around, it's like, man, they're still struggling. You go to New Orleans, they're still struggling. You go to the Philippines, they've rebuilt. And it wasn't just the money that poured in, and there was money that came in, for sure. I think at the root of it was, it had to do with arrows. And if you had a little arrow on top of your head that would point either out or back at you, and people could see which way it's going all the time. In the Philippines, they're all about we. Mm. In New Orleans, it was all about me. I mean, there were definitely, that's not true for everybody. I mean, I did my TEDx talk about Augie. He was all about we, for sure. There are people there, but as a whole, from a big picture perspective in New Orleans, the wind doesn't even stop blowing, and they're at each other's houses saying, "Hey, are you okay? Lisa, is your family okay? We're cooking rice. Sorry, your house got destroyed. Do you want to come to our house, have some food? We'll figure out whose house we're going to rebuild first." Mm-hmm. So what if in the workplace, that's the conversation that we're having? It's how do we get through this? We're stronger when we're together, like a cable making machine.
Yeah.
The more strands that you have, when it's under tension, it pulls the strands tighter together, but it becomes strong. Mm-hmm. How do we do that in the workplace? How do we do it in a way that we listen and say, I wonder who's different than I am in this room right now? I'm going to spend some time with them and get their take on what this specifically. I'm going to seek them out. I'm going to get their take on this, and not with an arrogance of I know what you need, but with a humility that says, I'm here to learn from you, and how can I best support you? And can we develop a place where everybody has a voice and everybody feels safe? If I have an idea and it's a stupid idea, I'm okay with you saying it's a stupid idea. I just don't want you to reject me. Mm-hmm. So how do we create those kinds of conversations? Because not all my ideas are great. I have some really good ones. but not all of them. But, am I afraid to share? Which is why I like the how might we question. The difference between how might we do this versus how could we do this is night and day in a disaster. Night and day.
When everything you're talking about here, I'm going to bring up the L word. Okay. So love. And when I think about love, there's so many leaders that I talk to, like, I don't want to talk about love. I don't want to get sued. And we're talking sexual harassment. I'm like, no, let's define love differently. Grace, place, space, curiosity, empathy. When I think about it from just humanity, heck, even the planet.
Yeah.
What with the we versus me, to me, we represents a thread of love. Maybe you're not calling it love. I don't know.
Oh, I am. Yeah, for sure I am.
Yeah. So let's talk about love at work, and let's talk about love in life, and highlight that what would be loving for that leader. Someone says, I need 3 days off. The leader says, hey, you look like something's up. Can I help you? And the person's like, I need 3 days off. And the leader's like, crap, we have a tape out. I can't give you 3 days off. Love would say, in my mind, so I can't give you 3 days because we got to get this tape out. Who might we call in? Who can we count on? How can we solve this together? Instead of no, that's the how might we, and stay in that. To me, that's loving.
Yeah.
Right. So, what's your take on that? Because you've seen this through so many different lenses, and we already know there's a nerd inside, because we'll talk about that too. But a tape out, a product launch, an event going live, a disaster happening. You can't say, I can't go today. You put your boots on and you go. So what's love look like when the leader has an open heart versus, well, I don't even know what my question is. What's love look like at work? Let me just say that. Let's talk about love.
Let's back up one notch, if that's okay.
Totally.
And talk about what does it not look like first?
Fair enough.
So I want to tell you this story about how I almost killed my team in Haiti.
Okay, you had me there. All right.
Yeah. There's a lesson to learn here. Like, if you're in a leadership role and you've been kind of eating your sandwich and stuff, this is the point in this podcast where you got to go, okay, all right, I don't want to kill my team. So I mentioned that, the whole world gets tossed in an earthquake, like really. And it was, we were assigned to a hospital called King's Hospital in Port-au-Prince. It was like somebody shook it, turned it upside down, slammed it back down in its foundation, and everything that used to be on shelves is now on the floor. And they have glass IV bottles. They don't have plastic bags like we do. So all that stuff fell on the floor and broke. There's glass everywhere. There's stuff everywhere. It's dangerous to just walk in the building because there's so much debris. But when we got there on day 5, there was a long line of people waiting to be seen. And some of those people had bones sticking out. And they'd been waiting for 5 days with their bones sticking out. Like, sometimes I have patients that get cranky with me because they have to wait for 45 minutes to be seen.
Right.
It's a whole different ballgame. They're waiting 5 days and they're, so we wanted to get up and going as quickly as we could. So we go in the building, we sweep up all the glass, mop the floors, had 2 anesthesia machines that worked. The Canadians, oh, Canada, brought us an anesthesia machine by helicopter, dropped it on our roof. We carried it down. So we had 3 operating rooms going from the crack of dawn until dusk. And then we had to go to the safe house. And we were doing great work. It was so good, so rewarding. And then one of my team said, hey, Diamond, did you see the crack? I said, you mean the one in the office? And he goes, no, not that one. The crack. I said, oh, show me, man. Let's go. So he takes me downstairs. We go out front, and the operating suite was cantilevered out from the building about 15 feet above the ground. Like you could walk underneath it.
Okay.
There was about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch crack going right up the side of the building where this was attached. And again, I've been all over the town, all over the city. I knew what happened. I saw all kinds of the fronts of buildings that had fallen off. It's like, oh. So We finished up the cases we were on. We evacuated the surgery suites. I went to the United Nations. I found some awesome engineers from Spain. They came over and they looked over the whole situation, had us build some pillars to support the front of the building, and then we were back in business again. In the incident command structure that I mentioned earlier, there's a safety officer, and the safety officer's sole job is to keep the team alive. If I have not established a safety officer or appointed a safety officer yet, as the incident commander, I'm the safety officer. So there's no way for me to look around and say, what's wrong with you guys? How'd you miss this? And I was like, dang. And the National Academy of Medicine came out with a model a few years back about wellness, about physician wellness. And at the very center of it, they put patient well-being. And I looked at that. I took one look at that model and went, you guys got this one wrong. You cannot put the patient at the center. You cannot put your customers at the center. You have to put yourself at the center, not from a selfish perspective, but from a loving perspective. If I lose my arms and legs and the building collapse, it makes it really hard for me to get up and serve anybody else. I have to keep my body running. I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of my team. So there may be times where you've got a tape to get out and your team is not at the point where they can do it. And you have to say, I hear you. We're shutting down the whole dang thing because I love you and I care about you. And your health is more important to me than that thing that we need to produce. So we're going to shut it down. And we're going to come together as a team to rally around each other to figure out how we can work more efficiently together in a way that you don't feel like it needs to get to this point where we got to shut the whole thing down, because that's not so good for us.
Yep.
We got a whole line of people out there that need us right now. But I know I had to shut that off. I had to shut that down to keep my team safe. And I almost killed my team because I didn't pay attention to my team like I should have. It was like,
Yeah,
it's like leadership 101.
I don't think I've ever been this speechless on a podcast interview because honestly, like how many leaders can raise their hands right now and say, yeah, right? I didn't put my oxygen mask on. I mean, me personally, I burnt out, took a 3-month medical leave, left the team hanging, couldn't function anymore. Not good, right? We've talked about that too. So, are we still recording? Yeah, we're still recording. Something happened on my screen here. So what I want to say about that is taking a step back of what it doesn't look like for your own example. We all have, I know everybody, if they're reflecting at all, that we have a story like that. With the time we have left in this interview, I know that you are so dedicated to this concept of unstoppable love. I'd like to bridge. I mean, and also we talked about our oxygen mask, right? So that's how we started. So I feel like it would be full circle for us to, here's what it wasn't, and maybe here's what it looks like now. And what's something tangible leaders can do right now to just put that oxygen mask on and be loving to themselves? Because that's the message here. You got to be okay so you can take care of the people you're in charge of. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do I take care of myself? Wow. Part of it is paying attention to the internal narrative. And like, if I'm telling the story that I just told and I said, I'm a disaster guy, I shouldn't make that thing. Why do I do that? That kind of an internal conversation. As I'm saying it, I'm going, oh, you're not being very nice to yourself right now as you're telling this story. How about maybe there's a different way you could tell that story. Maybe the story is we had such an intense love for the people that were there that we forgot. And most people would forget. And that's okay. The good thing is you recognized it in time and nobody got hurt. The next time you're in that situation, make sure you're in a safe workplace. Okay. All right.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm learning to pay more and more attention to my internal narrative that I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what you're saying is you have a choice in that moment. What words, what feelings, what story, what villain, right? Are you going to look at it through the lens of you're the villain, or look at it through the lens of you're human and here's what's going on, and what were the drivers and what can you do differently?
Yeah. How can I be tender? and nice
How
to
can I be
myself.
tender? Oh,
Kristen Neff's stuff all about self-compassion is amazing.
yeah. Amazing. I agree.
It's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
So that, and I'm trying to do things like take care of myself. I exercise every single day. Every single day. I don't miss. I had 823 days in a row of exercise, and then I had to have a quadruple bypass, and so I had to take a little bit of time off.
Oh my.
Like, what the heck?
Oh, just
I had a streak going. I can't stop for this.
Right?
Who cares about a bypass?
Do you get bonus points for that? Is that, like some special challenge?
So I'm back up to 380. I think I've got the shirt design. When I get to 824, when I break my record, I'm having my shirt. I'm an Apple Watch guy.
Yeah.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Apple Watch. It's all about closing your rings. My shirt design says Lord of the Rings on it.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to see that shirt.
Stay tuned.
Right. Yeah.
So exercise, reaching out to other people, have good friendships, take time to invest in friendships. The right answer is not, I'm going to get drunk every night and I'm going to do drugs. Although, sometimes it just seems like I just want to escape because I'm tired.
Yeah.
But that's not helpful. Journaling is helpful. Keeping a gratitude journal. There's a tremendous amount of evidence that keeping a gratitude journal will make you happier. Just do it. I use the 5-minute journal app. I love that thing. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for every day, 3 things I'm going to do to make today great, and 1 affirmation statement every day. It's helpful. It's easy to do.
It. Yeah. Yeah. And you can be grateful and still pissed off and scared, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
You can have the duality of the feelings, right?
But black boxer briefs, you have to admit, are better than tighty whities.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm with you. If I was really good at Photoshop, I would change your headshot for our podcast. All right.
No, you wouldn't. I'd come after you on that one.
Right. I know you didn't sign off on that. But however, tangible right there, right? And when we think about love, we want to talk about love for ourselves, love for our teams, love for our customers, love for our loved ones, community. Like, we're talking about really looking at the world with not love goggles, but love for everyone, which is we, not I or me.
Yeah. And it's not just a...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's taking the word unstoppable and merging that with love. Unstoppable love. It's a love that takes the initiative to say, I got your back. I got your back.
Yeah.
I know you're going through a tough time. I got your back. I got a buddy of mine that randomly, every couple of weeks, just texts me, Diamond, how you doing, man? I care about you. Don't forget, I care about you. I mean, how hard is that to do? Just send out text, look at the people on your list and kind of scroll down through there, and just once in a while send them a little note that says, hey, care about you.
Yeah. It's interesting for me. One of the things I learned, I call it being heart-centered. But if someone crosses my mind, they're getting a text. So I used to just ignore it. And I finally realized it's almost the whispers of my soul that somebody, just connecting with them. I don't care if it's client, someone I met at a conference, an old teacher, it doesn't matter. If you cross my mind, I have a list and I write it down. And before the day's over, I reach out to you because it might be in this conversation. I've already thought of 2 people as we're talking, right?
Awesome.
So maybe that's a tip I can give you too, is if someone's crossing your mind, there's a reason. And just, even if it's a text, reach out. Yeah. So as we are circling back, oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack here. Let's end in a really great elevated state, right? One of the things I know when you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed and tired is you have choice in that to actually figure out what's the next right step. So one of the questions I always ask is, what's the next right step? I mean, it's literally a question I ask, or how might I feel more energized? And one of the things that always comes back to me is music. And you and I've talked about this briefly too. So I have a playlist of everyone I've interviewed, and we're putting this together so that it's a gift to the community. What song is your go-to song in those times when you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, or you've got that tunnel, vision going on and you're aware of it? What's a song that just lifts your spirit, and why? Wow.
And it's just not fair because narrow it down to just one song is really tough. As I'm looking at this, I've got Good Time by Earl St. Clair. Always makes me smile. But I don't think you can do wrong with funk when you're struggling either. So
right?
You can have a whole conversation about playing funk music.
Oh, yeah. So that's your go-to. That's going to be the one we're putting on the playlist.
Yep. And I have one little tiny just a little thing that I'm getting the nudge to share with you.
Oh, please. Yeah. We have to pay attention to those.
I was working with a hospital system that was struggling with patients falling out of bed. And you have to report that to the feds, and then the feds ding you financially for that. So they were in the bottom 25th percentile for patient falls. So they did what most organizations would do. They formed a
committee.
Yeah, what was the name of it?
Safety committee or
fall out of bed
committee? Was it as creative as fall out of bed?
The fall committee. And I don't even know what to do at a fall committee meeting. It's like, we all get together, we sing ashes, ashes, we all fall down, and then everybody falls down. What do you do at a fall committee meeting?
Well, it must be held in the fall, right? It's got to be like a September.
No doubt. There's so many things that are wrong.
Colors. We can do leaves and colors. I got the whole marketing scheme. Yeah.
What they came up with was mandatory nurse rounds every hour, 24 hours a day. A nurse is going to wake you up and say, "Hey, Lisa, do you have to pee or poop? Don't get out of bed without me." And just when you're about to doze off again, then, "Hey, Lisa, wake up. You don't have to pee or poop, do you? You don't get out of bed without me." Oh. And so the patients are pretty cranky. They're going like, "Do you guys have a fetish or something? Because this is wrong."
Yeah.
The nurses are mad because now they got to do dumb charting that doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And what do you suppose happens to the fall rate? Not much.
Not much.
It might even get worse because the patients are like, "I'm not going to call them. They're weird."
Yeah. Or I'm so damn tired.
What's the opposite? Here's the nugget to think about. What's the opposite of patients falling out of bed? Most people would say a patient's staying in bed. Well, we can do that with rope. The opposite of patients falling out of bed is not patients staying in bed. The opposite of patients falling out of bed is great mobility.
Dude.
If you had a mobility committee, you're going to get some people to show up for that. They're going to volunteer. You have a fall committee, they want to know how much they're going to get paid to be on that suffering committee.
Yeah.
But a mobility committee, physical therapy, occupational therapy, even the unit clerk wants to be on that committee because that's cool, that's fun.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that you're struggling with right now, flip that into a positive frame and watch your own energy level go, "Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So instead of burnout prevention, how about the Energizer committee or the lit up life that's lit up, or, what would we call
how do we
it?
thrive?
Thrive.
How do we have teams that thrive in high pressure, high stress, high stakes environments? Boom.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Thank you so much. So one thing we got to do before I end this is we need to tell people how to find you, because of course I already know. I've got the bat phone.
There you go. Yeah.
There I am. There's my plug for how cool I am. Just kidding. I had to reach out on LinkedIn like everybody else does. Just however, I didn't have to. I chose to because I wanted you here. I wanted you here. So how can people find you?
DanDiamondMD.com.
Awesome.
That's where the action is.
That is the action. Yes.
Dan at DanDiamondMD.com. And I'm doing coaching and consulting and facilitation and keynotes and all kinds of fun stuff. So happy to pitch in and help at DanDiamondMD.com.
Love it. You are a diamond. And I know you've probably heard that before, but Dr. Dan Diamond, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing us that oxygen mask and telling us stories so that we can come into our own awareness as well, and always buttoning it with the cherry on top with actions. There's just something brilliant about the way you share and what you do. And I am grateful for our time together. Thank you so much.
My friend.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Heartfelt. All right, everybody, go out there and think about who your Jessicas are. Think about what you need to know and what you might be missing. And then remember, number one, love yourself. Take good care of yourself first, so we can all do the work we're here to do. And one love for everybody. All right. Have a great day.